everyone. Welcome back to the season finale of season 1 of both Cantina Hangouts and The Mandalorian. I know Cantina Hangouts way more popular than The Mandalorian, obviously, but we should give some love to the show we're actually talking about. This is it. This is the first live-action Star Wars series ever, and it just finished its first season. So just a quick recognition to Jean Favreau, Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, Deborah Chow, Taika Waititi, Christopher Yost, Bryce Dallas Howard, Rick Famuyiwa again, just because he's terrific, and I think he's directed my favorite episodes of the series, or at least one of them. Just a lot of people to give a shout out to, because a lot of hard work and clear love of Star Wars went into the production of The Mandalorian's first season, regardless of opinions on quality. It was clearly made by people who love Star Wars, and that's what we're here to talk about too. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Gina Versa.
Hey, good to join you.
Yeah. Overall, Gene, we have been, I think, lukewarm at best on The Mandalorian. There's been some episodes where we come away very positive on these recaps and retrospectives, I think it's fair to say. But overall, we were like, all right, what are you doing here? And I think the last episode we did last week, the Deborah Chow penultimate episode of the season, Chapter 7, The Reckoning, we were very positive on, and we were very surprised at how positive we were on that episode.
Right.
And it felt like the show's finally finding its footing. And Chapter 8, Redemption, directed by Taika Waititi, the season finale of the first season of The Mandalorian, written by Jean Favreau. How do we feel about it?
It's like it finally found its footing, and now it's over.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you.
Just like season 1 of The Office and The Simpsons.
No. Season 1 of The Simpsons had a much better streak than this season of The Mandalorian. I feel comfortable saying that anyways. I don't know. I guess that's kind of up for debate. I never really got into the Simpsons discourse, I guess. But I thought this was a really good episode, not as shocking as last episode. But that's okay. It wasn't really going completely for that. R.I.P. to Nick Nolte, because that was my favorite. That little dude was my favorite, and no, he did not come back. I was kind of hoping that Quill would make a comeback, but no, he's gone. And R.I.P.
You can't survive. You can't survive that.
Yeah, I was holding out hope. I don't know.
With that little body diaphragm, I'm not gonna survive it.
Yeah, poor guy. We lost a couple people these last 2 episodes, as well as Taika Waititi's character, IG-11, which I like that little dude. I like the robots in Star Wars, so that was kind of neat. But the season finale, the premise, we pick up at the end of the last episode, The Reckoning, where who's the character's name? Hang on. Let me pull this up again. Where Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon, basically an Imperial warlord, has cornered the Mandalorian and his makeshift little crew with Gina Carano and Carl Weathers' characters, as well as, again, Taika Waititi's character. And there's basically a showdown for the entire episode on how to escape and take care of Baby Yoda, because that's like the baseline premise of the show. The Mandalorian is taking care of Baby Yoda, and the episode is basically one long action scene. And we have given this show some poop because it costs $15 million per episode, and boy, it does not always look like that. But these last 2 episodes, I think it's safe to say they sure shut us up, because these looked terrific. And I think this episode, I don't know about the cliffhanger. I don't feel completely satisfied as oh, yep, we wrapped up a story here and now we can go on to the next adventure. But I think it is the best directed episode of the season, and I feel the most fulfilled as oh yeah, this was an actual Star Wars adventure finally. I don't know how how did you feel about that?
It felt very disjointed. I was particular particularly unhappy that for a Star Wars venture it just took a while to get going on its narrative. It just kind of stopped and stalled like a bad hyperdrive unit. So it was just yeah, it was a little frustrating to be honest.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, I guess this episode yeah, I mean it was particularly good these last two, but I mean, it's few and far between.
Yeah, it would be nice to see if the next season the Mandalorian just kind of like hits the ground running, because I can see what like John Favreau was kind of trying to do with
Hmm.
this first season. Like, we're having some standalone stories, and then here we wrap it up all in the finale, and it's like one big story, surprise. It's like I I have no knowledge of this, but my
Yeah.
gut feeling is that Jean Favreau, when he pitched the show, was like, we're gonna do what the Avengers did. We're gonna introduce individual characters and then team them up for one big finale. And they were
Hmm.
like, that sounds great. We'll do that show. And then it's like, oh shit. It's like if every phase one movie like kind of sucked in the middle, and then the Avengers
Yeah.
still kicked ass. Because these last two episodes, for lack of a better phrase, I thought kicked a bunch of ass. Um,
Yeah, I mean yeah, they were like really worthwhile. I guess yeah, I mean in that respect, certainly. Certainly. Good job, John Farrow.
yeah, good job, John Favreau. You pulled through eventually. Really could have taken better care of other episodes this season, I guess. But again, shout out to Deborah Chow, Rick Famuyiwa, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Dave Filoni for making his live action debut. Everyone else kind of was like, you know, significantly more comfortable in the live action department. But I
Hmm.
hope Dave Filoni actually lends his writing voice more than his directing voice
Hmm.
next season. We've said
Yeah.
we're fans. Um,
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with staying in your wheelhouse. Not everyone needs to change the game in a variety of ways. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I think.
yeah.
Or, no, go ahead.
In terms of writing, some of the stuff also kind of bugged me where I don't know, John Farrow, it feels like video game like his these character arcs that he had for this character just felt like video game power-ups.
I completely agree with that, and because Star Wars is a hot take of the season, and The Rise of Skywalker came out, and lo and behold, if anything, that movie just proves that, oh yeah, people did like The Last Jedi a lot. And people are not happy when you kind of pander to the wrong kind of fan base in the series. Just a heads up forever and the rest of history for people who make Star Wars movies. Keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
Hmm.
And not to derail the whole Mandalorian conversation already, because I think we're both positive on this finale, and I think it's important to note that Star Wars as a fantasy series, first and foremost, that's why I think, anyways, it will last longer than everything else. I think this is the modern American myth. Uh,
Hmm.
Superheroes are also there alongside it, but I think Star Wars hits a very sweet spot that kind of transcends even just film. I think it's just like a
Hmm.
part of like human culture at this point in a weird way.
Yeah.
And the reason it's going to last, I think, is not because of those stories that kind of are like focused on plot. And like you mentioned, those video game power ups, I think that's a great criticism,
Hmm.
because director and writer Ryan Johnson had also brought that up in regards
To Luke.
uh, to Luke. Yeah, someone was going at him on Twitter about it, and he was like, with all due respect, like that's not really that kind of undermines characters. That doesn't give them humanity. That just gives them like beats, that gives them plot points to like fulfill, like you completed this mission, so that means you can do this. And I agree with him. I think that's a very boring way to go about these things. And I think the
Yeah.
Mandalorian, if it can get into those rhythms of Star Wars better,
Hmm.
like those rhythms of a fantasy story that doesn't need to like make plot logic sense, it just needs to make emotional sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just let's not get into that whole thing. I guess we could talk about the direction of Star Wars as a whole, but the better parts of the Mandalorian, like again, this was all basically one long action scene. This finale, and I thought it was just like great television. you
Mm-hmm.
know, the stakes were clear. You know, like, oh, these people are trapped here, they need to get out this way. Oh, this person gets injured here, so they have to deal with this. Like, that's like the most plot you get out of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
totally room for these episodes in this series to like have a lot of like fun fantasy elements and space adventure stuff going on. The Mandalorian as a character, we get more backstory on him. Finally, we see the full flashback that we saw like several episodes ago hinted at.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that's still not enough. What did you take away from the flashback to the Mandalorian himself?
Um, it was certainly that scene. I was like, oh no, I hope it's not like Jango Fett or something stupid. When you first saw the first Mandalorian, because it looked bluish, the armor, and I'm
I
like that.
was concerned. I'm glad you brought that up because I was like, oh shit, please don't.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that wouldn't really make sense anyway to begin with, um, because since he would already be dead with the battle droids. But yeah, it was a really well written sequence. It gives you a little more insight into his character, to their credit. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that flashback, all things considered. I think it was a neat little twist. It gives you more knowledge on the Mandalorians that they're not just you don't have to be born there. You could just be born into it. Yeah, I mean that was particularly very well done. Good job,
Yeah,
John.
yeah, I like the idea that like, oh yeah, it's not just where you're from; it's who you choose to be.
Hmm.
You know, and not, again, like it's really hard to talk about Star Wars at this point in time, right after the Rise of Skywalker, where everyone's kind of like, oh shit, that twist with Rey, spoiler alert, is
Yeah. Well, if you
maybe
have
a little conflicting to people. Even people that like the movie, I kind of noticed are like, yeah, but about that. um not
Mhm.
too sure about that one. And I think people felt
Yeah.
that it closed off the universe a little too tightly. And with The Mandalorian, a show that we've been criticizing heavily because we love Star Wars and we know how good it can be, that
Yeah.
felt like, oh yeah, that just feels appropriate, you know? It just feels right. Now,
Mhm.
Star Wars is for everyone. That's kind of like a little testament to that with the Mandalorian culture. I just thought was neat.
Yeah.
St- yeah, I still wish the actual Mandalorian character would have a little more going on. But
Mhm.
if he just keeps getting tossed into like these action adventure plots with like more
Mhm.
interesting characters around him, I could roll with that too. Because I really like the supporting cast this season a lot.
Yeah. When I saw them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when they all teamed up, it just felt like, oh yeah, this is like this shit right here. Like this is so obviously what like Jean Favreau was like really excited to get to eventually, and it's just like if he just spent a little more time in the other, like developing the other stuff this season, that would have been really cool too. Because imagine if it was just this good like all the way through.
Yeah, that would have been the dream. Wouldn't have gone crazy as much watching this.
Yeah, yeah, really. It's kind of funny. We're like very pro sequel trilogy people, and
Mhm.
then very mixed on the ending. We're mixed on the entirety of Mandalorian, but the last two episodes, the ending episodes, pretty impressive. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yes.
funny how
Yes.
that works out. Um, yeah, it's just basically one long chase sequence to get a glimpse to the rest of the Mandalorians that helped Mando himself escape, whose name we get in this that I did not write down because I'm not even going to try to pronounce that again.
I think
But
it's in Dijon.
Dijon?
Yeah, like, sounds like Dijon mustard.
Oh, okay. Okay, I like that. Dijon, if that is his name, I trust you on this. He sees the leftover Mandalorian helmets and armor from the other people that may or may not have been killed, and then the armorer um, announces herself to him, Baby Yoda, IG-11, the entire group on the escape, and she says that like most of them probably did die, but some probably got off world, and I don't know. I actually was like very moved by that, and I didn't care about this stuff before, and I was like, hey, this is a moment right here. Like this is like a real story being told. What's going on? And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just found it very interesting in ways that I've never found the Mandalorian stuff before. Would you like to see those characters again? What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah,
And
yeah, I really,
yeah,
would really like to see um the I would really like to see the Griff Karga character again. I love Carl Weathers. I forgot what line he said where he's just like, just kick it, you gotta, or he's like, I think we should take over. Like he was unintentionally pretty funny, like Action Jackson.
oh, like in the very end when they clear out the stormtroopers, and he's like, "Yeah, why don't we run this town?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like he's so like over the hill. Yeah, I really enjoyed this character.
Yeah, I liked him a lot by the end of this too. I really liked these last episodes, and I liked him a lot in these last episodes.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's been no secret I've been rooting for Gina Carano, and I thought she was
Hmm.
very good in this season too. I'm glad she's sticking around. I'm sad to see IG-11 Taika Waititi's character go, but
Could be IG-12.
IG-12. Hey, I'd be very happy about that. Um, but I do like that the series at least attempts to confront the Mandalorians like inherent racism against droids.
Hmm.
Because the whole series, he's like, no droids, no
Yeah.
droids. Like droid rights don't matter. And then
Hmm.
by the end of this, he's like, oh shit, I like this dude.
Yeah.
And it's kind of moving when he sacrifices himself for the group.
Yeah. That
But
worked really well.
yeah.
See his face. He's not ugly.
Oh yeah, and then we see Mandalorian's face, Pedro Pascal himself. Um,
Hmm.
he gets to show it to IG-11 after he gets injured. Did you think they would actually kill off the Mandalorian?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I I
Not for a
I didn't
single
really.
second.
Yeah, I didn't really buy into that either. Sorry, show. You've turned out to be very good at many things by the end of this. That just wasn't going to happen. Sorry. I still enjoyed it though. I thought it was all the character interactions were very exciting to watch. I like seeing this group of people together, and I was like, oh wow, we just been building up to like building this team, and now they're all going to go on adventures together. And no, that's not really the case either.
Mm.
They're split up again, and the Mandalorian will now go have more standalone adventures. Which again, I just feel like I should reiterate. I'm very against the terminology like, oh, this is a filler episode.
Mm.
I think every episode has its own merits. The problem is they're just not doing them to their full potential, and the
Right.
writing's not very good. Who cares if they're standalone? Give me more standalone stuff. I'm tired of everything trying to be Breaking Bad and Mad Men and Game of Thrones. Let these things
Hmm.
be their own thing. But for the love of God, if someone wants to rewrite Jon Favreau stuff next season, don't stop them.
Hmm.
Uh, I hope we see these characters again. And Grand Moff Gideon, the Giancarlo Esposito character, who I guess is going to turn out to be the big villain henchman of the series.
Hmm.
Uh, I really liked his presence at the end of last episode and for the entirety of this one. I like that he gets the big showdown moment at the end with the TIE fighter versus the Mandalorian, which is like that is pretty goofy, but I love it a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. It was a nice little it was a nice little standoff for sure. I was really surprised he had the dark saber at the end there.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that prop goes through so many hands throughout the entire Star Wars, like Darth Maul and Mandalorians. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how many users it has. It's hard. It's like the Tesseract. It's hard to follow who's had it.
Honestly, yeah. And I guess just because not everyone's seen the animated series, some quick backstory on the Darksaber. I don't know it like verbatim, but I do know the stuff in the animated series because I'm a fan.
Hmm.
But I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, Gene. You
Yeah.
probably know more than I do. Is that it was like a Jedi or Sith weapon at one point, and along the way, uh, some hero or villain fell, and it fell into the hands of the Mandalorian, and it was like carried down from generation to generation of like tribes or warriors, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we see it at the hands of a villain actually played by Jean Favreau in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then from there, it falls to the hands of Darth Maul. For those who've only seen the live action stuff, we don't have time to go over all that. Just watch the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels on Disney Plus. You got some good stuff in there. It's worth it. And then eventually falls into one of the main characters' hands in Star Wars Rebels, and now it's here. So I assume that's bad news for fan
Oh,
favorite
Sabine.
character Sabine.
Well, yeah, but she left. She left Mandalore. She goes to Lothal for like a couple years to protect it after after the events of the series. So I think she's okay. She's with Ahsoka at some point.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So do you does she have the dark saber by the end of that series, or did she
Uh,
leave it
I think
Mandalore? I can't remember.
I think she probably leaves it at Mandalore.
Okay. I hope so, because I like that character a lot, and she was one of my favorite parts of that series. But yeah, anyways, it's basically an ancient weapon, and it's kind of a deep cut moment. Haha, get it? Because he cuts himself out of the TIE fighter. But it was a very deep cut nerd moment when he cuts himself out of the TIE fighter. Just given the nature of the look of the weapon, I thought it was like it's just never going to look quote unquote good in live action because of how the weapon radiates basically black light.
Yeah,
So
it looks a little wonky.
yeah, I don't know how you shoot that to make it look good unless you have like a $200 million budget. So I'm not even going to knock it. I just think it's important to point out, like, yeah, it's probably never going to look great, but whatever. It's a weird Star Wars weapon, and I think if anything, the Mandalorian as a series just needs more weird Star Wars stuff. So I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of all over the place in this episode, but I think we're very positive on it. And are you looking forward to next season? At the end of all this, are you looking forward to next season? And did you like the season as a whole? Would you recommend it to someone else?
I don't think I would recommend it to anyone. I was a little frustrated watching it. I feel like people are going to I don't know, they're going to make their own minds up on the show. I mean, it's a weird spot in Star Wars where it's so divisive. So I don't know. I kind of avoid Star Wars conversations sometimes, to be honest. But I mean, I thought it at least redeemed itself by the end of this series. You know.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Don't know if I feel comfortable recommending it to someone else. What I hope happens is what tends to happen with some other bingeable shows, because now it's out in full. You can binge it, which I know many people were actually waiting to do for it to be out in full and be like, let's see how this goes. Just in case there are some episodes that are not to their fancy, which is most likely going to happen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless they were like a Star Wars diehard or something like that. I have some relatives that are pretty casual Star Wars fans, and they're like, "Yeah, we watch it. We've been watching it like every weekend." And I was like, "That's actually very surprising." So like, they're kind of my social guinea pigs. Basically, if they watch something, I know it's a hit. And so I'm like, "Oh shit! If they're watching The Mandalorian, that must mean like it's doing numbers."
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone either. Are we looking forward to the next season?
Yeah, I think it's in a good place to where it could actually be enjoyable, like really enjoyable, you know?
Yeah. I know some people really want the plot stuff. I just wanted to get better at the standalone narrative. Star Wars is a series where anything can happen. So let's see everything and anything and make those episodes count. Make those episodes really feel like mini movies, you know? Let's see that $15 million budget go to fucking work. You know, District 9 cost $30 million. That movie looks like it cost $100 million.
Yeah, but I
Let's
mean,
not.
yeah, it was by a special effects wizard in terms of visual effects someone that worked extensively. I mean, they knew Neil Blomkamp knew how to put his money where his mouth was.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Yeah. Something to keep in mind too. I hope for the best for next season. I have no reason to doubt it as of right. Oh, I mean, I do have reason to doubt it, but I am optimistic for what comes next, and I hope it fulfills its own promise and premise. Last question then. Baby Yoda, Gene. We've been
Hmm.
discussing what Baby Yoda eats every week.
Hmm.
Uh, do we have an answer, like an official answer? Do we have a Baby Yoda menu ready to go?
It's Christmas, so probably like eggnog or Yule logs or like tamales, I think.
You know, I actually had like 5 tamales earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty good.
cheese, green
So it's
chili, and pork.
yeah, I like all of them except the green chili. So
No, no, no. You just gotta have the right chilies.
I guess it's too
Yeah.
hot.
Oh no, I love it, man. I can't have food that's not spicy anymore. I need a kick in the morning,
Uh-huh.
just to help me get started. Um, but yeah, that was season 1 of The Mandalorian. Mixed bag
Yay!
to say the least.
Yay! I'm
Yay?
glad.
Question mark?
It's like the dog with the swifty eyes. Is it over?
um,
Yes.
yeah. Oh my God. You know what? Actually, this is the last thing. Not that other stuff. I think it was episode 5 where they go back to Tatooine, and everyone was like, "Really? That was the one you were hyping up?" Anyways, the end of that episode has someone with some boot
Some boots.
buckles.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were suspecting that was Boba Fett surviving,
Or okay.
or who?
Or I thought it was like what's his face? Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. Oh yes, I guess that's the question I want to leave off with, and I will ask the people on the Twitters and the Instagram: was
Who's
that
that guy?
character Boba Fett or Cad Bane, or a third option that I just don't think of?
What if it was just like Moff Gideon?
I think that would make total sense for the show. I think it would be kind of a bummer creatively, because I kind of like the serial adventure aspect of the show, where it's like, that episode with where they break into the prison,
Hmm.
and like all the other people involved with the heist just end up in prison, doesn't kill any of them. like
Yeah.
like that's fun to me. Like, all right, now, we're gonna get that Mando eventually.
Yeah. I
like
mean, that's like
I
who's
like
the
that stuff.
son of a bitch? I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, exactly. I just think it's fun to see recurring villains like that. So it'd be kind of cool if they brought back just like random, like, EU characters or whatever it's called now, right? EU or Legends? What's the?
Uh, Everything that's not canon is Legends. Yeah, and then there's canon tie-ins and all that.
All right, yeah. So we'll see. Literally no idea. Watch them never even bring that up back again. Which is fine. Whatever. You know. There's more things. Oh my God! And then there's the scientist who worked for Werner Herzog, but I guess that's not important anymore. So who
No,
knows?
yeah,
R.I.P. Werner Herzog, but Giancarlo Esposito's built
yeah.
different. So
Yeah, I just feel like we're watching Lost again, where we just see characters and then they never matter again.
no, Lost only had that problem a couple times, and then
I mean, like, what happened to like, what's her name? Like Lily, just in a mental hospital, then gone.
oh, oh yeah. Okay, you know what? Lost wasn't a perfect show, but it's still the best show, and that's all that matters. So, Gene, thank you for joining me. We
Thanks.
almost recorded every episode together this
Yeah,
season.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we had a break that 1 month, but it worked out. But I mean, we survived. It's a testament to our friendship and things, and I don't know, sanity and I don't know, togetherness. Certainly our ability to stay awake after
yeah,
midnight.
yep. It is 1:30 right now, so it's time to stop this recording. So, Gene, why don't you let the people know where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, G9892.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and the Patreon. And check out soon our best of the year, best of the decade episode, and then a little best of the year 2019 mashup as well. So all this great stuff available on here, as well as the rest of the recaps of the Mandalorian season 1. Mixed feelings again, but you know what? It was fun doing it. We had great guests, we had great Gene, we had great Diego, and we had a great podcast. So thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional. See you next season.